Andy.
Andy Bell, 5 News. You've clearly identified Vince Cable as a big electoral asset. He's on the side of the bus with you. He's on the manifesto with you. Isn't it the case that a lot of people thinking of voting Liberal Democrat will be doing it because of Vince rather than because of you? And how does that make you feel?
You put it like that. If people want Vince in number 11, as I do, as I think many people in this country do, I mean, I'm nothing but delighted and proud that the Vince, who's a close colleague and a friend, is quite right, if that's the implication of a slightly barbed question, the most trusted politician on the issue of the day, which is the economy. I think that's great. I think it's a sort of sign of the times. It's the Liberal Democrats who have the spokesman on the economy who is most trusted by the British people. And if you want to see him running the government's finances, as I think many people do, then vote Liberal Democrat. Yeah, Patrick.
Patrick Winter from The Guardian. Could I ask how many people won't go to prison who would have under the Labour government, because you're going to save a lot of money from that? How many illegal immigrants will be entitled to earned citizenship under your proposals? And how can you realistically abolish tuition fees and say there's no cost to that?
Yeah. That's 3 questions in one. On prisons, what we're saying is if you reduce reoffending in the way that we're proposing, particularly by making sure that people who at the moment go into prison, very large numbers, go into prison on short-term prison sentences. About 4,000 people go into prison every month on short-term prison sentences of 12 weeks or less. And young men on short-term prison sentences are now reoffending at the most shocking rate of 92%. So that means, despite all the tough talk from Conservative governments and Labour governments, they've come up with the marvellous idea of spending your money chucking people into prison for a few weeks to sit around, learn the tricks of the trade, come out and create yet more crime. It's not being tough on crime, it's being stupid on crime. If you reduce the reoffending rate, you would of course reduce the pressure on prisons. If you take some prisoners out of prison who at the moment have got acute mental health conditions, who clearly need to be kept out of harm's way, behind bars if you like, but in our view should be put in secure mental health treatment facilities. If you think that some people should be taken out of prison and treated for the drug addiction which is fueling their repeat crime pattern, we think you could cancel the prison building budget, and that is where this significant saving comes from. So you take those steps. So it's not a question of how many people you take out of prison, it's that you don't need to increase the prison estate by allocating yet more money to building more prison cells, which just get filled again by more people who go out and commit more crime and create yet more victims of burglary, mugging, and so on. In immigration, what you're asking about is a very specific solution to a very specific problem. The problem is this. We want to tighten the borders of this country so that we know who's coming in and who's going out. But even if you do that, we want to see the immediate introduction of the exit controls, so you know who's leaving the country as well as who's coming in, which are of course abolished by the Conservative Party, Conservative government, and then fully abolished by Labour. Even if you do that, you've got this legacy problem of those people who've come into this country under the chaotic immigration system over the last 20 years under both Conservative and Labour governments, who've been living in this country for years now, under our noses, in the shadows of our economy. Now, you speak to Gordon Brown and David Cameron, they come up with this hilarious idea that you deport 900,000 people, and then you say to them, well, where are they? Because you obviously, I guess, need to know where they are if you're going to deport them. Oh, we don't know where they are. We think you can't deport people if you don't know where they are. So what we're saying is that for those people who've been living here for 10 years, so a long period of time, can show they haven't committed more crimes since they first entered illegally into this country, want to pay taxes, speak the English language, want to contribute to this economy, it would be better to get them out of the hands of criminals and into the hands of the taxman. It's the only way to deal with the legacy of Conservative and Labour tough-talking immigration, which has been chaotic. And on tuition fees, I mean, it's spelt out here, I hope at least very clearly, our commitment on tuition fees, which is something that we introduce incrementally over 6 years. So the first year, tuition fees on the last year of study for an undergraduate on their first degree course would be removed, and then we've moved sort of down, to the penultimate year, cap the tuition fees for part-time students and so on. So it's a rolling programme over 6 years, would climb from £600 600 million to 1.7 billion over the 5-year period, and that would be fully funded from within those savings of £15 billion that we have identified. I'll take one more question from George Parker.
George Parker, Financial Times. You've repeatedly said that the party with the biggest mandate would have a moral right to govern. You've never said exactly whether you mean votes cast or seats won. I wonder whether you could tell us today, and as a supporter of proportional representation, should we assume that you're referring to votes cast?
What I've always been talking about, I think, is in a sense stating the obvious, which is that if there's a party which has got more votes and seats but hasn't got an outright majority in the House of Commons, then it seems to me self-evident that whatever the constitutional niceties say, whatever the sort of tradition is about incoming or outgoing prime ministers, that party has got a moral right to seek to govern first, either on its own or reach out to other parties. What you're asking me about is something different, which is, am I going to start second-guessing what might happen if you have a sort of hair-splitting photo finish? And I'm just, I'm not going to start... Both. Well, that's what I say. I've been referring to both. So there you go. There's the answer. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hold up the...
Yep.
No.
Here.
Sir. All the way around.